the way our team is constructed. And we have to play close to perfect basketball.
The way our team is constructed, we have to play close to perfect basketball. That is what LeBron said after a loss to the Clippers, and he's not wrong, but that is a very interesting comment to make at this point in the season. Because as we all know, this is trade season in the NBA. The trade deadline is a couple of weeks away, and as always, LeBron wants to push for an NBA title. His only goal at this point, his only reason for being in the league, he has all the records, he has a scoring record, he played in a game with his son. At this point, the only other goal he can accomplish is to try and win more titles, and it is clear that even with bringing in JJ Redick as head coach, bringing in Dorian Finney-Smith, some of the other roster changes they've made, they are very far away from that. And this has become a theme of LeBron's tenure in LA. We all know that he is in charge of the team. Essentially, it's the reason why JJ Redick is the head coach. It's the reason why Bronny was drafted to the team. Those two things together just solidified the fact that LeBron is basically running the Lakers. And this has been a theme for him throughout his time there, where he is publicly pleading for changes and improvements to a roster that currently is not championship worthy. Yet it seems unclear what exactly their path is towards becoming a championship level team. Because no matter what you think about the greatness of LeBron still at this age and whatever Anthony Davis can put together on a night-to-night basis and some of the other interesting pieces on the Lakers and whatever coaching prowess JJ Redick has, they are not good enough. And although I'm sure the Lakers would love to try and contend this season, their options are pretty limited. In terms of bigger trades, there of course are the typical names out there. Jimmy Butler is a name that's going to constantly be thrown out there related to the Lakers and some other teams around the league, as the Miami Heat are still trying to find a trade for him. He isn't all that realistic of an option for the Lakers because of the way that the salary matching has to work. They'd have to give up basically all of their other competent role players. Rui would have to be in the deal. Austin Reeves would have to be in the deal. Now that they've gotten rid of the D'Lo contract, a Jimmy Butler trade would basically gut their entire roster. It's not that they wouldn't do it, but that it would take a lot in order for them to make that move. Cam Johnson is another guy that has been thrown out there because the Lakers do have future first-round picks that they are able to trade, and reportedly, that's the main thing that the Nets want back. They want 2 future first or something equivalent to that in exchange for Cam Johnson, who's been having an awesome season in Brooklyn, and you could see how his three-point shooting and his versatility and his scoring could really help this Lakers team, because they're really trying to piece it together with someone like Finney-Smith, and Max Christie's been playing a bunch. They're still struggling on the wing for real perimeter spacing, and Cam Johnson obviously provides that for them. Again, they'd have to put together some contracts here, and they do have the picks to trade it, but the question if you're the Lakers is, how much is Cam Johnson, despite how great of a season he's having, really changing your playoff destiny, and is that really the move that you want to spend these future first-round picks on? Because even though LeBron says this kind of stuff publicly, you don't have to trade away future first-round picks just because LeBron's kind of upset the team's not that good. There's some other riskier options out there as well. Zach LaVine is a guy that has been continually connected to the Lakers for like 3 years at this point. They need a boost in perimeter scoring. They need someone like Zach LaVine that can shoot, play on and off the ball, can create for them, and he's been having a really good season in Chicago. I could see that as an option for them if they're willing to take on the long-term money. But again, similar to the Butler thing, they'd have to put together a couple of contracts here to make this work. This was way easier when they still had the D'Lo contract on the books, and without it, it's just much more difficult to trade for LaVine, not to mention the fact that I'm not sure that really changes that much for the Lakers in the postseason either, which means that they're probably looking at some smaller moves. We've seen some like Kyle Kuzma buzz maybe with the Lakers. I don't think you want to be giving up a first-round pick, and I think that's what Washington would want in exchange at this point, to trade away Kyle Kuzma, but that's at least semi-interesting for them as someone that could possibly fit in some of these bigger lineups. Jonas Valanciunas is an option that apparently the Lakers tried to get in the offseason. He's been rumored out there as well, potentially leaving Washington. Again, I'm not really sure how much that changes your destiny. Clint Capella in Atlanta has been mentioned because Onyeka Okongwu has been playing really well for them, and they've had that 2-center thing for a while, so they might be ready to move on from Capella, and that allows them to play AD and Capella together, maybe play a little bit bigger, and try and figure out how that can potentially help some of their defensive problems. Then you've got some other names like Bruce Brown in Toronto, Jordan Clarkson in Utah, Robert Williams in Portland. All these names have been kind of thrown out there. Nick Richards was an option for them as well before Phoenix traded for him. He's been good for them. But really, at this point, this is the bottom line for the Lakers. Unless they really want to try and go all in for some kind of Jimmy Butler or Zach LaVine, or maybe even Nikola Vucevic is an option for them, unless it's that kind of a deal, I don't really see how they're better than maybe the 9th or best team in the conference. And that's just how their team was set up for the beginning of the year. Despite the fact that they had a really good start to the year with JJ Redick coming in as head coach, they weren't a change in head coach away from being a contender. With LeBron at this point in his career, with the way that the rest of the roster was put together, and despite optimism from myself included at the beginning of the season, it's clear where they stand within the Western Conference. There's way too much depth in the conference, depth on these teams. Teams like Oklahoma City, even teams like Denver are going to absolutely destroy the Lakers in a potential postseason series with the way their roster is currently constructed. And they're just not a Zach LaVine or Nikola Vucevic away from changing that outcome. Now, maybe if it's Jimmy Butler, if they could figure out a way to get a 3-team deal together, maybe get back some of their depth despite giving out a bunch of these contracts, maybe that's an option for them. We thought this was kind of the case when they made the Russell Westbrook trade a couple of years ago and acquired Westbrook. I didn't think that was a real option for them, and they were able to make it work. But ultimately, we're probably just looking at the end of the LeBron era with the Lakers and potentially LeBron in the NBA in general. They have tried and tried and tried for years to change their roster along the margins, right? Like they added guys like Jared Vanderbilt. They added guys like Rui Hachimura. They got rid of Russell Westbrook. They've drafted pretty well with guys like Austin Reeves. And they just haven't been able to make it happen. They won the title in 2020. There's no guarantee that with an aging LeBron, you're going to continue to be able to compete at the highest level because he's just not going to be able to carry your team on a night-to-night basis. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. And at this point, if I'm the Lakers, I'm holding on to those future first-round picks for dear life. I'm not giving up a first for Vucevic or Jimmy Butler or Zach LaVine or any of these guys. I'm keeping those because I know in my heart of hearts, despite what LeBron may say publicly, this team doesn't have it. And they don't have it even if you add any of the pieces that we've talked about in this video. The only thing you could maybe talk me into is depending on the price for someone like Cam Johnson, because I feel like that helps my team long-term. It's a nice contract. It's just a good role player piece that can help me this season. And then whatever the team ends up being after this year, again, I'd like to keep those first-round picks because I'm pretty sure LeBron's playing. Maybe this is his last year. Maybe next year is his last year. Maybe he wants to go somewhere else because he wants to try and win a title. Whatever the case may be, things could get weird pretty quickly. Maybe Anthony Davis could get traded. Maybe LeBron could request a trade because he's frustrated that the team won't improve. But at this point, if I'm the Lakers, I'm taking some control back here from LeBron. And I'm saying, okay, we understand what you're saying about the roster. The roster's not good enough, but you're not good enough either anymore. And you can say what you want to about how we have to play close to perfect basketball to beat good teams. Yeah, that's probably true. That's because you're like a 42 to 45 win team, best case scenario in the West. The West is really good. It's really hard to compete every single year when you don't have an in their prime superstar, someone like Giannis, someone like Jokic. And the Lakers just don't have that anymore. And despite the change in head coach, despite tinkering with the roster over the last couple of years, this is just who they are. And at this point, the worst thing you can do is not recognize that reality and make some kind of a panic trade for Vucevic or LaVine or Butler. That's the absolute worst case scenario. If you're the Lakers, you know you're in trouble. You know you're not very good. You know you're not a championship contender. You know LeBron's not going to be happy about that. But you kind of just have to accept that that's the reality of the situation. If they make some kind of a panic trade and start giving away future first-round picks just to win like 1 or 2 playoff games, that to me is a sign that they are in real trouble for the future. And I'd imagine lots of Lakers fans right now are thinking kind of where I'm at. I don't want to give up the future. I don't want to trade for any of these guys. I just want to see if maybe this team can make a little bit of noise in the postseason, enjoy that, and then move on to the next era of Lakers basketball because this one is probably over. But hey, if the Lakers want to make some big trade and try and shake things up, that's awesome for content. So I'm also super down for that. The Lakers are always a super interesting team to follow and keep an eye on as we get closer to the trade deadline.